Hey guys, welcome back to 9 to 5 Gamers. Today we're taking a look at a game called Proliferation. And this is a game about nuclear strategy where each person is going to take on the role of a global superpower. And when you take on the role of that global superpower, your job is to consolidate power. Each country has their own win condition for how they consolidate power. The main goal of the game is to just meet your win condition, and it's a card game. And so let's talk about what I think about the game, and let's see what it's all about. So first and foremost, the thing I always do is I got to tell you a little bit of overview of the game, which we talked about. Setup, storage, let's talk about that. Setup-wise, the game sets up very quick. I do appreciate games that are easy to get to the table. However, the one thing that I will say is that it's not the most visually appealing, right? But we'll get to that in another time. But setup-wise, it sets up quick. Storage solution. I think the game has a playmat that you can buy separately, which is the reason why this game is so massive. It's because it has a spot for that playmat. As you can see, there's like this really big, but to be honest with you, that's one of the things that I immediately saw about the game was that it does not need this gigantic box unless you have the playmat, which I do not. But this box could have been a lot smaller, and they could have probably saved some money by making a smaller box, because I know that all of that factors into the overall cost of the game. The cost of this game is about $90. And from what I remember, but yeah, it's so big, and it's one of those things where it's like, this doesn't fit on my shelf. You know what I mean? I have to put it at the very top of the shelf in order for it to fit anywhere. But it's just very big, and all it has is cards. So it could have, honestly, the box could have been a lot smaller. But everything fits in the box fine. It's got a perfect system for storing everything. So I think ultimately it's like at a 1.5. When it comes to the storage and the setup. It's easy to set up, so obviously a 1. Storage-wise, really, really big, perfect, good storage, but it's just way too big. It's just way too big. I would not keep this on my shelf. That's it for that. Now let's talk about the learn and the teach. Learning the game and teaching it was... It wasn't hard to learn and teach. The thing is, there was just so many questions that were kind of left over, and I guess you could blame the teacher for that. And when I taught the game, maybe things weren't labeled as clear as day, or I didn't make things as clear as they possibly could. But man, we just had way too many questions, a lot of people not understanding like the structure of the game. But it's a very simple game. But for the most part, it wasn't really hard to learn. But there is a lot that goes on in this game, but it's not that bad. The learn and the teach is not too bad. I had some trouble teaching it and anything like that, but as far as I'm concerned, it's probably like at a 1.5 for the learn and the teach. I thought that it was just fine, so that's not too bad. Okay, now next part is the visual and components. Man, this is where it's gonna start taking a hit. I mean, the cards are fine, like the quality of them is good. It's thick card stock, but it's so not appealing. You know, like Peacekeepers, for example, it just has like a little wreath symbol, and it says Peacekeeper. You know what I mean? And it's not the most visually appealing. The mission card is just like a little folder. Trade agreement, it just has like a little picture of a map. I thought they could have done, and here's why. Because this game is a card game. Because that's what it is. It's a card game. There's nothing else in this game except cards. It has some dice play, but we'll get to that. But it's because it's only cards. This is your canvas. This is your board, right? Like, this is your table presence. And because of that, it visually doesn't look appealing. When you set it up, people aren't going to want to come and play this game. You know what I mean? You would think that people would want to, based on the game. So if you look at a game like Bitoku, for example, that has so much stuff that it might deter people from wanting to play it. Or you could look at a game like Rush MD, which I just did a review of, and Rush MD, it's like the table presence makes you go, wow, what are y'all playing? I don't feel like this one does that. I feel like the artwork is okay. This event card is supposed to be like world news, right? So maybe put some newspaper background. Maybe it would have distracted from the word event or something like that. But even around it, if you had just placed some words or something to make it look like it was like a newspaper or something, or make it look like a television, I don't know. I think that the artwork on everything is just okay, and it really takes away. I mean, look at the collection cards, and then on the other side, it's like it's okay. Because your components are just cards, you really need to make sure that you go all in on those cards and make them look nice, and go for the artwork. This is one of those things that when you take it out the box, you go, man, I paid $90 for this, and it looks okay. I think the artwork on this is fine. It looks, I guess, appealing in a sense. It looks good to me, but yeah, I just think artwork and components are okay. Comes with some pencils that are like cheap pencils. It comes with some dice, which you don't even need all of the dice. And it comes with these tokens, which you pop out, the nuclear winter tokens, which are fine. The NWTs are fine. But yeah, man. And then there's no first player marker. So there's no way to keep track of first player. I think they have one, but it's like either it was a Kickstarter exclusive or you have to buy it separately. And I just don't feel like you should do that at $90. That should have all came in the box. I think for $90, this should have came with the mat and with the first player token that they came with, which was like a little nuclear cloud. But yeah, it's just for $90. The artwork just it's not there. It's not visually appealing. So as far as artwork and visuals go, it's gonna get a 1, and that's being generous. Honestly, should give it like half a point, which I kind of want to do. Because it's just not good artwork wise, and I mean this is fine. This is cool artwork, but the rest of it just isn't there. Now let's talk about the next part, which is gameplay mechanics. This is a very long game. At the end of the day, you're trying to basically gain your win conditions, which for everybody in the game, everybody has a win condition where you have to have a total of about 100 EP, okay, which are the victory points in this game. Everybody needs 100 EP. If you're China, you need 150, but I think everybody's goal is to get 100 EP, and then after that, everybody has one goal, that's 1 or 2 goals that are like infrastructure goals. Like for the America, you need 100 EP, plus you need the oil infrastructure card. Now, the hard part about this game that I'm trying to think about was just like, you're trying to get to 100 EP, but the way that you do that is by building infrastructure. And on the way the game plays is that when it's your turn and you're the first player, you're going to fill these fields up with 4 cards from each deck. The mission cards go face down, and then the trade agreements will all go face up. And trade agreements are just basically little agreements that you can make between you and another player. And if one of you has the resource, like one of you has livestock, you can make an agreement with somebody who has livestock, and you'll collect EP from those people, and they will also get EP. The infrastructure cards cost EP, but they yield EP over time. And then the main goal is for you to build up a bunch of infrastructures so that each turn you're collectively getting more EP. Like I had an engine that was getting me like close to 20 EP per turn. But at the very beginning of the game, you start off with only 3 EP per turn. And then these things cost a lot of money. Some of them are 5, 8, 11 for oil, and they yield a decent amount, but it's going to take about 2 to 3 turns before these things produce the EP that you use to buy them with. And so you start off with like 20, I think the US starts off with 35, other countries start off with like 27. And so you start off with a small amount of EP, and as you're building your infrastructures, you'll gain that back, but it could take 3 to 4 turns for you to get them back. And then the game encourages you to keep buying more infrastructure, so your EP total, which you need to get to 100, just continues to go down and down and down until you can build an engine. Not even an engine, because you can only have 4 infrastructure cards. It's not much of an engine, and they just produce during the collection phase. It's so odd to me, because the game takes forever. Like, we were sitting there playing for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours in, and it's at that point where you're 2.5 to 3 hours into a game where you go, man, Arc Nova takes 3 hours to play. But I know that I really enjoy myself when I'm playing this. This one really starts to slog and bog down, man. Like, you really feel like you're not getting a lot done. The game needs to be faster, for sure. So as far as the developer goes, I know that there's nothing out there on how to play this game. There's nothing out there on like BGG. I don't think even had Proliferation on there for a long time when I had received this for game, when I first received it like a month or two ago, and I've been trying to get it to the table and play it a couple of times so that way we could understand it. But man, it's just so long. It's at that point that I'm like, man, I would rather play Terraforming Mars, or I would rather play Arc Nova, or I'd rather play a game that takes this long, but it's a fulfilling experience. And for me, it just felt like as we were playing it, it just started to slow down, and we were playing wrong at one point, but then as we were playing it, we started to read the rules and go, oh wait, that's not how that works. Oh wait, so you can only buy mission cards when it's your turn. So basically the way the turn structure works, it's on the back of here, which I think is really, really good that they have that for player aid purposes. But you fill the floor for phase 1, and then whoever's the first player is the speaker. You check to see if you can consolidate power, which takes like literally 2 seconds. Phase 3 is a proliferation phase, where if you're the speaker, you reveal any nukes. So any nukes that you bought, they don't get flipped over until it's your turn, right? But when it's my turn, I have to go through 7 phases, and it takes a long time to do that. So I flip over any of my concealed nukes. If I have any nuclear winter tokens, I get rid of one, which the nuclear winter tokens hinder you. That's basically what happens after you get nuked. Phase 4 is your policy phase. This is where you alone, as the speaker, get a chance to buy as many cards as you can afford. And then after that, you can open up the floor to other players to do that. It's during phase 4 and 5 that you're able to play a lot of these mission cards and different things and trade agreements. If you have a trade agreement that you want to make with somebody, you can only make it on your turn where you're the speaker. And so that really slows the game down. I think that a lot of the things that you should be able to do on anybody's turn. Like the mission cards, you shouldn't have to wait. There are some missions that don't have to do that, but if I have a trade agreement that I purchased, right, and I have to wait for somebody to have the right infrastructure for me to make the trade agreement, I should be able to do that at any point. Because the thing is like sometimes these trade agreements, it's like nobody has diamonds right now, right? Let's say the diamond wasn't there and nobody had diamonds. That's pointless, that whole diamond thing. So it's like there's no point in having that there, so I'm not going to buy it. And then you can't even activate it. You would have to buy it, wait for your turn again to flip it over, and maybe that's just user error, but yeah, it just felt weird. And then at the beginning of the game, you flip over one of these events. Trade agreements cost 2 EP less. So it's like I want to buy a trade agreement, but nobody has the stuff that I'm looking for. This game plays fine. It just takes a very long time, and I just don't see myself wanting to commit to that time cost for this game. But you go through phase 5, you open the floor, then everybody else is allowed to do their stuff, to buy whatever they want, but they can't activate anything because it's not their turn. Then phase 6, you flip over a collection card, and then it says only collect if you possess 3 or less infrastructure cards. So these collection cards, so instead of me gaining EP each turn, sometimes you flip these over and it's like nobody gains EP. And it's like, okay, so I have no money for the next turn. That's fantastic. And I don't know if that's like thematic and it fits, but it doesn't feel good. Like those cards just feel wrong. It feels wrong that you flip over a card and it says nobody gains EP. It's like, all right, cool, I guess. Phase 7 is the summit phase. This is where you can motion, like as the speaker, when it's your turn, you can make a motion to put the sanction card on somebody, which there's a big red sanction card. Not 1,000% sure where I just put it, but it's somewhere around here. Yeah, I don't know. It's around here. But anyways, it's a big red sanction card, which tells you what sanctions does. Here are the score pads that it comes with that you can keep track of all of your money, but then you're supposed to keep your money private. It is weird, man. Some of that stuff. And so you can put sanctions on a person. When somebody has sanctions, they can't collect their EP, and they have to roll a dice. If they roll a 6 with a D6, if they roll a 6, then they would collect their EP. But if they don't roll a 6, they collect nothing. And it's just really bad, man. They don't collect from anything. And it slows the game down so much because you go from, oh, look, this turn I'm about to get 20 EP, so it's just going to rocket me up and get me close to my EP goal of 100. But no, sorry, nobody collects. So you get like maybe 2 EP from trade agreements. And that's it. And I'm like, man, what a slow turn. And then just picture that. Picture how many rounds it would take if everybody's getting only 2 EP per turn. Picture how many rounds that's going to take, right? It would take 50 rounds of the game of you earning 2 EP to get up to 100, which is your goal. Meeting the win condition of 100 EP is not easy. Then people are stealing your EP, people are nuking you, and then when you get nuked, you can't gain EP because you're a nuclear winter, so all of your infrastructure cards go away, and that's the main way that you make EP. And it's just so, it's such a, I don't know how to explain it. Like we played it, but everybody at the table, you could see it in their face that they were just kind of like I feel like it's super, super group dependent. In the way where it's like, hey, look, we're going to play this game and we're going to nuke each other. But the thing is, that's the other part of this game. You buy these nukes and you spend 10 EP to buy it, and then you flip it over and this is what you get. You flip it over and you get a dud. It says, this nuke does nothing. Reveal on your next proliferation phase and discard immediately. That feels terrible. And then in here, there's a nuke that literally, the Tsar Bomba, it will literally has a damage rating of a 5, which means it'll one-shot a player and take them completely out of the game. And the thing is, too, with player elimination, anytime you make a game with player elimination, you have to try your best to make the game quick so that people can get back into the game. For example, Love Letter. That game plays so fast that even though I got eliminated from the game, I'm not out. I'm ready to jump back in because the game's only going to last 5 minutes. This game, it's like you get eliminated and it's kind of like, whoa, well, everybody teamed up and nuked me, so now I guess I'll just go sit over there and wait for you guys to finish 3 hours later. It's just not, the whole player elimination thing is really tough, man. And I guess that's what happens when you nuke somebody, right? But it can be kind of tough, man. It can be very tough on a game to have player elimination, unless you do it right. I'm not sure if I went over everything. There's Peacekeepers, which can get rid of trade agreements or negate a mission. The mission cards can steal nukes from people or let you gain 2 nukes for free, and then you're just kind of like, oh, that's crazy. But the one part I wanted to talk about was sanctions. Sanctions are so crippling in this game. They absolutely need some kind of way to get sanctions off of you aside from voting, because that's what happens when you get the sanction card. You cannot get rid of it until we vote and say, yeah, we'll lift the sanctions. But who's going to do that after you drop a nuke? If you drop a nuke on anybody, the whole table is going to look at you and go, nah, we're good, we don't want to lift the sanctions off of you. And I find that weird, man. Like, there should be a card or something there. Maybe there is, but we never found it or got to it. but there should be like some way to get rid of sanctions because it cripples a person so bad. One of the guys the first person to drop a nuke, the one we played, he was like, I would have never dropped the nuke if I knew that sanctions were going to affect me this bad. There's literally no point. So everybody was so terrified of sanctions that we ended up just playing this really safe game where we weren't nuking each other or even wanting to, because it's like, bro, sanctions are so bad, there's no point in nuking. We literally lifted the sanctions off the guy because we felt so bad because he was miserable the whole game. And I'm like, well, that's what you get for nuking me. But at the same time, I just genuinely feel bad because you're not having a good time. You're not getting any EP. He was like at 11 EP in every game, every round. He's rolling this dice and going, well, no money for me. Oh, collection. Oh, no money for me. And man, it was so, I felt so bad. So all in all, gameplay mechanics, man, I feel so bad for saying this, but everybody that I played it with, we did not enjoy it. It's too long. Sanctions is too crippling. And again, I think the game, I think conceptually there's something here that's worth salvaging, right? There's something here worth salvaging. But there's got to be a lot of, it needs a visual overhaul. It's got to be, there could have been a map. There for EP totals, right? You could have used, let me see if I can find it. I don't understand why, when you're keeping track of your EP, you have this thing and it's like, oh, I have 35 EP, minus 5, now I'm at 30. And then you have to keep track of all of your EP here. You have to keep track of your GDP here. You should have given a, with the US, right? You could have given everybody at one of these, or given them a couple, either give them a couple of these. This is from Marvel Champions. Look at that. I have 18 EP. Now I have 19 EP. Oh, I just gained 10 EP. Now I've got 29 EP, right? Like, this is such an easy way to keep track of your EP, and you can flip it face down so that people can't see your EP total. But at the same time, you can keep track of your lives and all that other stuff. They should have made some kind of a dashboard. I think one that was really good example is Tidal Blades. Theirs is like a big version of this with a couple of dials for different things. Keep track of your EP, keep track of your lives, right? Or have some other kind of visual reminder. Have a counter, right? Like a nuclear, instead of these, make these into these, so you, and then have a couple of them so that when somebody gets a nuke with a priming interval, instead of, like, how do you keep track of that? How do you keep track of the priming interval except going, okay, that's one. All right, how many turns has it been? I have a priming interval of 3, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, this nuke is ready to go, right? Use one of these tokens to do that, right? Where you can just kind of go, all right, 1, boom. Oh, next time, 2, boom. Like, that feels satisfying. And again, then it feels like it's worth your, like, almost $100 investment into this. Having something like this would have been great for the game, for components, like, to keep track of stuff, you know what I mean? Felt like the dice, you gave 9 dice, which you don't even need. You could have cut costs there because you could have just given 1d6 and one of these, so that, although there were points where we all used them, so I suppose that's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just gameplay mechanics wise, we didn't really have a great time with this one, man. But I do feel like there's something salvageable. But there's a lot of improvements you're gonna have to make this game more playable. Visual artwork. Do something like this to help with that. I don't know, maybe a board or something like that where all of this stuff goes to. I don't know, there could have been something to really justify the cost of the game. Because, you know, like, I bought Dominion, and Dominion comes with probably just as much cards, but Dominion's like maybe what, like $40? You know what I mean? It's not 90. Imagine paying $90 for Dominion and open it up and there's nothing but cards in it. There's just not enough components in this to justify the price. Gameplay mechanics wise, I gotta give this game, like, I want to give it, like, The defense system, I didn't even get to this. The defense system is fine. Bro, this thing cost you 30 EP, and I thought, hey, look, this thing is going to be awesome. I'm going to use the defense system to deflect a nuke and get an amazing play. But you have to roll a D20, and if you get anything less than 14, you completely miss and just take the nuke anyway. If you score like a perfect 20, you can deflect it. But man, they really needed to adjust the numbers on that, because I'm like, bro, what was the whole point in investing 30 EP, right? If I'm supposed to get to 100 and I spend 30 on a defense system, and a lot of the nukes just go through the defense system, so there's no point in having it. It's super expensive. Peacekeepers are fine, but they only cancel like 2 things in the game. I don't know, man. I'm sitting at like, I want to say like the mechanics aren't very great. It's like half a point. The gameplay is not good. I would say that that's either a 0 or a half a point. I had a really tough time with this one, so I think I'm sitting at like half a point for gameplay mechanics. Now let's talk about theme, fun factor, and replayability. I don't want to replay the game. It's not a game that I want to play again, unfortunately, unless they make some drastic changes to this game. And I don't like dogging games because somebody took time to make this, and for that I appreciate that. Like I'm in the middle of producing 4 games myself, where I have like 4 ideas for games that I'm looking to make, and I have to think about all these little things. And I know making a game is not easy, so I applaud you for even producing it. But again, it's just not there yet. I think this was a game that needed more play testing, and it needed more time investment, probably more financial investment to get some artwork and things like that, as well as some better gameplay. I'm sitting, replayability I don't think is very high. It's very long, and it doesn't feel as fulfilling. It's very mean, very crippling, to the point where a person doesn't want to play. At the end of the day, I don't even want to give like a score for everything. I don't want to do the whole score thing. I think I'm just going to throw all that out the window. The people that I played with gave the game a 4. They said, I didn't enjoy myself. I appreciate the work that they did, but I did not enjoy the game, and I would not play this again, and I would certainly not purchase it. I was being generous and giving it a 6, but even then I feel like that's wrong. I feel like it's a 5. I think the game even has like its own kind of like, I knew exactly what to expect when I opened the game, because it even had a section where it says, hey, look, we included blank cards because, house rules. House rules. We know people, sometimes games aren't perfect and you need to house rule things. So here's some blank cards to that you can write stuff on and create your own cards to balance the game. And that's not the responsibility of your consumers. Although that was a cool and a novel idea, and I'm sure when we thought of that, that was... When they thought of that, they were like, that would be a cool addition. I've never seen a game do something like that. You're right, you haven't. And the reason why is because it's a tell. It's a tell that the game is not going to be that great. It's like, our game needs for you to fix it. You know what I mean? And then it also has a lot of that in the rules too. It's like, or if you have any ideas or if you have any feedback, please let us know. And it's kind of like, that's what playtesting is for. That's what getting this game to the game table and playing with people and teaching people how to play the game. And with that, you should have had a bunch of videos out showing people how to play the game. A lot of game studios do that now, where they produce a game and then they have the game, they have tutorials and things like that. I didn't have anything, you know what I mean? I had nobody that I could, I could probably email they were really good at emailing. I could email the people, but at the end of the day, it just did not go. And there's an expansion to it that it came with, but I didn't even want to get to the expansion because I just couldn't do it, man. Like, this game for me is sitting at like a 5, and I feel like I'm being generous because I want to be kind, but there's no way that I could give this game even a 7, because a 7 is a game that I really like and I'd play again. I don't feel like I want to play this game again. I don't like being mean. I don't like coming off as rude. but I'm sitting at a 5, you know. And again, everybody else said I was being very generous. They said they would give the game a 4. But I think that it's just a game that needs more play testing. It needs more work. I'd say if defense systems are going to be as clunky as they are with this D20 dice roll, make them cheaper. Does it make sense for you to pay that much EP for a defense system that's probably not going to work, right? I've rolled twice already. 3 times. 4 times. 5 times. 6 times. 7. 8. Now my defense system would work. And it wouldn't deflect the bomb back, it would just destroy it. And it wouldn't hit me. But the odds of you rolling the numbers that you need, and if you want the defense system to cost 30, then you got to change the numbers so that it's more effective. There's no point in having a defense system that doesn't work. Peacekeepers, I think Peacekeepers could do more. Yeah, all it does is you can discard somebody's mission cards, you can discard an active trade agreement, or you can counter somebody's attempts to do so. Use these to get or do something else that can add something that can get rid of infrastructure cards, right? Or not even that, because then it's like it sucks because then people won't have a good time because you keep taking out their infrastructure cards. Yeah, I think the game could be shorter if they would raise the yield on the EPs. Collection cards probably could stay the same. You do need to fix the tax collection card because it just says roll odds, but it doesn't tell you what you do. Like most of the time it'll say no player country collects, or only collect if you possess any peacekeepers, right? This should have said roll odds. If you succeed, collect. Right? Like, it should have been clear like that. This just says tax collection, roll odds. I'm like, roll odds, but when I roll odds, does that mean that I don't collect? Does that mean that I do collect? We assumed because you're the government, you're collecting taxes from people. That means that you would collect, but you have to roll odds to do that. But it's not entirely clear. Event cards were fine, but super situational. There was too much stuff in the game that are specific, that these events weren't like like our first event. A lot of these events had no effect on anybody. It would just like we would flip it and it'd be like, oh yeah, nukes are 2 less, and it's like nobody would buy a nuke because nobody wanted to buy a nuke because we were trying to build up our infrastructure. So some of them just didn't hit at the right times. I think there's way too many events. I don't think you need that many. Missions were fine. I think maybe improve them a little bit more. I think you need to lower the cost on a lot of the cards. So this is just my constructive feedback to make the game, I think, more playable. I think that this game, with the adjustments that I'm saying, would make it at least a 7. In my opinion. I don't see this game, like you would need to change the game completely to make it an 8 or a 9. I don't think it gets that high. I think this is a 7 at its highest, and the way that happens is with a lot of these adjustments that I'm talking about now. But again, it's like, why? These are things that I think playtesting should have brought out. You know what I mean? Playtesting should have revealed a lot of these things. I don't think you need a content creator to help you with that type of stuff. As a matter of fact, that may actually hinder the sales of the game and stuff like that. You're going to have to take this one back to the drawing board for sure. But I think there is a solid game there, but it does need some overhaul, and I think you could maybe get it up to a 7. And who knows, maybe there's something that you can add into the game that would make it an 8. I don't know. But I don't think the current expansion adds that to the game. I don't know that this game would be as enjoyable. I think this game definitely needs a little bit of an overhaul. So it's at a 5 out of 10 for me. That's it, man. So that's pretty much it for the video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.